So yeah, just your initial thoughts on the draw and going out to Lubbock and maybe playing a team you've played before, as well as Washington, which obviously has got a very strong postseason pedigree.
Yeah, any time you get a chance, an opportunity to continue your season and postseason, it's always special. Every team is different, every group, so I know we're excited to see our name up there, and I think to expect to see our name up there is something that we've been working hard towards. And even with this group, the goal was to host, but obviously not reaching that, but keeping ourselves in the hosting conversation all year long, I think is definitely a step in that right direction for us. So, our goal these last few weeks or so, kind of knowing maybe where we stood, was we want to go be a really tough 2 seed somewhere. And I think we got a tough regional to do it in, but that's what postseason's all about. You're playing the best of the best. Got the best pitcher in the country we're going to see in Texas Tech, and Washington, a program who has a lot of postseason experience, a lot of trips to the World Series. And so for us, it's an exciting time to go out there, continue to prove ourselves, and to make a case for ourselves in the postseason.
What's made you scout Washington, other than what you've already mentioned? What stands out to you about the Huskies?
They're a young team, but I think they've got some good transfers in there. A lot of deep pitching where they can throw a lot of different arms at you, and then some really solid young bats. I think they have one of the best freshman hitters in the country right now. So for us, it's going to be a challenge. They know how to play, they know how to win in the postseason, and it's definitely a team that we cannot take lightly to start off a regional and look forward to Texas Tech, because Washington's going to give us a great game. I think it's going to be a really even matchup as well.
Last year, offensively, the last few weeks, things just really sort of dropped off, and this year you've been able to avoid that. So what would have been the keys to just stay strong at the plate through here in May?
Yeah, that was really a big focus for us in the offseason. As we know, excuse me, our offense really is what we hang our hat on a lot of times, so we needed it to be strong in the best part of the year. So a big focus was the way that we trained and the way we continue to train throughout the season, and we put a lot of focus on the weight room, on the nutritionist, and the work that our girls do with him, and just making sure that we were still in the best shape and taking care of our bodies in the right way, making sure we were recovering properly at the best part of the season, and that we weren't fading off as we got closer to the end of the year. So it was a lot more lifting on game days, lifting at least 3 times a week, if not 4 during season, which typically you would cut back a little bit. And really it was a lot of buy-in from the players. And in the past, the weeks get long, the bodies get tired, but getting them to understand the why behind all of it, and it was for this reason right here. And I think we got to see that a little bit, especially as our offense stayed strong through the end of the season.
What do you just remember from playing Texas Tech early in the season, and your thoughts on possibly playing them again?
Yeah, we're excited for it. They're a great team, and I think they're a different team than when we faced them in February, and so are we. And I think, that's the goal of the season, to continue to get better. But they've got a really tough lineup, 1 through 9. They're fast. They can hit for power. I think their defense has been playing really well of late, and on top of that, they've got the number 1 pitcher in the country who, I think the biggest thing, we know we're going to strike out, and we knew that kind of in February. It's just those numbers are going to happen, but how do you grind out at bats? How do we continue to learn every inning so that we can kind of make adjustments as the game goes on? But one thing, getting a chance to see her, I think, is helpful, but at the same time, they got a chance to see Raylan. So I think it's going to make it a good, even matchup for us. They're fiery, they're competitive. I think it's going to be an exciting matchup. If we can get the opportunity to play them on that Saturday winners bracket game. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I think it's what postseason's all about. I think that's why Nyjah transferred to Texas Tech. It's why a lot of our players are here. It's why Raylan transferred to Mississippi State, for an opportunity to compete in a postseason, in a regional, and be on the mound against the best of the best.
You're going to see some more good pitching. You saw a really good one that LSU had last week at the SEC tournament. I know you'll want to try to perform a lot better, and no matter who you face.
Yeah, I think the SEC tournament game, for some reason, we've not played well in that tournament the last few years. But I think we were able to use it as a good little wake-up call to get back in here this week. Typically, after the SEC tournament, before the selection show, we'll give them a couple days off. And that wasn't this group, and that wasn't this year. We got right back at it. We've practiced every day the last few days, just making sure we could kind of make the adjustments, because honestly, it's probably the worst offensive game we've had all year. Just not swinging in a plan. We looked like we were back on our heels, we looked defensive, and that's not at all what our identity is as a team. So really just kind of spent the week getting back to playing Mississippi State softball, having fun, being aggressive on the attack and setting the tone. And that's the mentality that we want to take out there this weekend.
Obviously for your senior leaders, like Sierra and Raylan, they've been here before, but some of your younger players and even like the juniors who haven't started before, like this is going to be their first time really experiencing what the postseason is like. So what are you expecting from them, and how have your more experienced players been sort of telling them what it's going to be like?
Yeah, I think it's always, one thing we talk about that is that nerves are good. I think it means you care, and just using them in the right way, letting them turn into a positive. And we have enough, I think, getting back to the postseason last year was a huge part of that, because we have enough experienced players who have been there. Whether it was on the field every inning or getting some opportunities, or even just being out there to practice. Like the whole setup is different. The way you run your practice days, the way they run warm-ups, it's different than everything we do in regular season. So I think for a lot of them, particularly I think Riley Hull, kind of our one carryover from the super regional team in 22. She was the first voice I heard last night when we saw the matchup on the TV, and the first one kind of preaching to the girls like, hey, this is a good thing, like let's go out there and compete. And so I just think it's keeping that excitement and not worrying about who the team is on the other side, no matter how great their pitching is or their offense is, that we have to keep our focus on us and what we can do well. And I think those juniors you talk about who haven't started all year, or who didn't start until this season, Kiara Sells, Morgan Bernardini, they've done nothing but prove themselves this entire year. And I think for both of them, the game against Texas Tech, our first game of the year in February, was a big breakout game for them. They both showed that they were ready for this level and to be a full-time starter in the SEC. And I'm excited for them to kind of, continue that matchup that they got for their first game as we get into postseason and their first postseason game here.
Yeah, and then for your seniors, what are you seeing from them, and just in terms of how driven they are right now to make one last run and try to get to Oklahoma City?
Yeah, I think our seniors have done a great job being very vocal about it all year long, and just trying to make sure everyone kind of stays within, not looking too big picture, thinking too far ahead, or putting too much emphasis on the team in the other dugout, whether that's an SEC opponent, a postseason opponent. But they've done a great job of keeping the focus all year long on how do we continue to play Mississippi State softball, give it our best effort every game, and not worry so much about the results. Because I think when you start looking too far ahead, you get away from the little things that we do well. And they're a mature group. They've all been out there. They've all had postseason experience. So I'm excited for them to kind of lead us through this postseason experience as well.
Nadia's been kind of locked in that number 2 spot in the lineup for a while now. What do you like from her there, and what has she just provided offensively the last 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, Nadia, just so proud of her, the way that she's just continued to develop and grow. As a full-time starter, as a freshman to now as a junior, you can just see the experience. I think the confidence has been huge, and it's a tough role, batting behind Sierra when a lot of people are going to pitch around her. So, I think what we've seen with her is just she continues to work hard. She's very humble. She's one of those that everyone on the team is going to look towards. A lot of the younger players now, you can see them gravitating towards Nadia, and she does a great job of leading by example with her words. And it's just been, I think, really cool to see that evolution, and a lot of fun to see her rewarded for that with an All-SEC nod and the All-Defensive team.